have to make part two because we've had a total wipeout of the connection. We're so sorry, but we're going to go on with the show. And we're going to continue with a semi-event part two. The race two, the semi-event number two, was Mad Max Romo winning that semi-main event win with Aaron Fox, a close second place. And they advanced to the final. And then edging out the Dylan Romo and Blake Barillo. So they were the ones going out that particular race. And so it was set, the main event. And it was Max continued his dominance. Mad Max was dominant. He just continued to dominate that particular race. The main event, he's won a whole bunch of them in Paris. And he went ahead and edged out Brock Nickel. Brock Nickel, actually, he did really well. And he was pushing Max pretty hard. I think Brock had a little bit of a bump wheelie at the start. And it kind of slowed him down. So that was kind of Brock's a little bit downfall in that particular race. But Mad Max continued his dominance, and he won that particular race. So that was good. And he won that main event, the opening main event at the Bakersfield Speedway. So that was really great. Congratulations. And then we had Brad Sauer. He won the handicap consolation, and he actually prepared the track too. And then the D2, we had Dylan Wagner. He won, followed by Mark Philibron, and then Schaefer, McNutt, and then McDougall. That's how the finishing order in the D2 races went. And also the D2 Consi was Robert Curry. He won with Lawrence McNutt, Sammy Teterot, and Ron Davis in the D2 Consi. That's exactly how that finished out. The D3 main event was with Tom Settlemeyer. He won with Holt Jr. in second place is actually how that turned out. And then they had the Junior 250 main event, and that was with Alex Martin. He beat out Jose Navarrete for the 250cc win there at the Bakersfield Speedway. And then the 150cc Junior Speedway bikes went to Mark Hillebron. And he beat out Matsurama for the win. The sidecar race actually went to Team Osborne. They won with Team Curry in second place, Kyle McNutt, Kyle third, and then McNutt was in fourth in the sidecar main. Overall, it was an exciting night of racing. The Speedway at the Speedway track, the opening night at the Bakersfield Speedway, and it was really great. And we just congratulate all the riders. They did really great. They rode safe, and they just did a really great job. They had a really nice night of racing. But we had a crash that night. We had a crash, and here's the wall. The wall got baptized. The wall had a little bit of a ding by Reese Todd. He went ahead and had a little marking on the wall. Reese Todd made his opening night statement at Bakersfield Speedway. So congratulations, Reese, on that particular event. And we have the final lap of that. Wow. And we have that crash right here. There's that hole in the wall, that expensive plywood. Reese went ahead and just baptized the heck out of that wall. He did a good job. And he's really had a fast ride, Reese Todd. He did really good that particular night. So it was a domination by Mad Max continued. And he did really well. And It was just a total domination. And we asked, like, where the hell is Bakersfield? And we're going to find out right now. They're going to do races once a month at Bakersfield. And here is a little story about Bakersfield. We put that in the first video.
What is going on, everyone? Welcome back to The World According to Briggs, a channel where dreams become reality. Just kidding. Well, I mean, unless your dream is to hear someone talk trash about your hometown, then hey, welcome to The World According to Briggs, a channel where your twisted dream becomes reality. Today, the dream takes us to a city in the California outback known as Bakersfield. Bakersfield is to most people just some lights out your passenger side window while you drive north on Interstate 5 about 120 miles outside of Los Angeles. To around 400,000 residents, it's called home. It is the 9th most populous city in California. Bakersfield was reincorporated in 1898. I guess this is another one of those places that they didn't remember they incorporated a couple years earlier. Bakersfield carries the nickname Nashville West, which I'm sure that is some sort of insult to the actual Nashville. One is a tourist destination, and the other one's more like a tourist detention area. The first thing most tourists say while visiting Bakersfield is, why the hell did I come to Bakersfield? Why are my tires slashed? And I think somebody peed in my gas tank. Bakersfield isn't the type of place you visit, and for most people, it's not the type of place you live. But that doesn't mean people don't move or visit this place. Today we're going to see why you shouldn't move to this jewel of the California desert in my top 10 reasons not to move to Bakersfield, California.
Don't move to Bakersfield. When I was racing back years ago, when they had the Bakersfield Bandit team, they had a sticker and it said, "Where the hell is Bakersfield?" Where the hell's Bakersfield? That's not nice. But actually, Steve Evans did produce a nice racetrack there at Bakersfield. And actually, there's a handful of Speedway riders, including the Sauer brothers that live in Bakersfield. So we don't want to make anyone mad, and we don't want to say too much. But Bakersfield is kind of halfway between Orange County and San Francisco. It's in the middle of the desert pretty much. It's a farming community. It's a rancher community. And it's, you just pass it when you go on the 5 freeway, go heading north or south. And Bakersfield, it's actually a nice little town. It's developed nice, but it doesn't have the best of all names. Bakersfield, California. And it's those people are like cowboys, and they really like the racing. You have a lot of car racing at Bakersfield. It's quite the place where they do a lot of racing in Bakersfield, California. It's kind of a cool place, and they've got a lot of stuff going on in Bakersfield. But now they have Speedway in Bakersfield. They didn't have, Speedway was gone in Bakersfield since the late 70s. So they haven't really had Speedway in a long time. And Digger Helm has since passed away. He's no longer living. So Bakersfield actually, has a rich history of Speedway in the past, and then no more. So yeah, it's great to see the Speedway come back. And we had Extreme Speedway filming that particular event, and thank you for the video footage, Ken at Extreme. We had Mark Williams before Ken. We really like Mark Williams. He was really a great guy. He was a elderly gentleman who passed away this past year, and Mark and I were best of friends. Mark was really great, and he was a big Bumblebee fan, and Mark was just a great human being. Really missed Mark so much. And then the big winner that night was Mad Max Romo. He really did good. He was great, and he just had a really great night, and he just, he dominated, really. Mad Max was completely on fire, and he just completely took down the field. It was Mad Max domination night once again, at the Bakersfield Speedway. He likes those long tracks, and Mad Max is a very talented rider. I mean, like I said, his brother just got signed in the Plymouth Gladiators. He's a gladiator. And Mad Max is kind of waiting for the right offer, because he doesn't want to just go to any team. He was there before in the British League for a while. And Mad Max is pretty much dominating the Speedway world right now in Southern California. So I think Mad Max is waiting for the right offer. And then if he doesn't get the right offer, then he'll just stay home and race for that number one. He wants to be number one is his goal. And here's the start of a race, and these guys are going for it. It's a nice track. You can see all the tents in the background, a lot of people in the pits cheering for the riders, and it was just really cool. And then they had the last man out race again. That was really great. And Mad Max won that. He won the main event and the last man out. He dominated that. But in that last man out, you had Billy Gennaro and you had Dylan Pickle Romo, and I thought you had Brock Nickel, but I think it was Aaron Fox. I thought it was Brock Nickel the whole time in the last man out, but I believe it was Aaron Fox who was out first. So Mark, tell me if I'm wrong, but I think it was Aaron Fox, and I was thinking it was Brock, but I don't think it was Brock Nickel. I think it was Aaron Fox that was in the last guy out. And here's a nice picture, a little styling it. Look at they're riding the pole there, man. They're getting down on the pole. So a little bit of pole riding there at Bakersfield. You don't expect pole riding on a 220-yard track. These guys riding the pole because it's a bank track, and anytime you ride a bank track, you can go high and hard and ride that high dirt. Dylan was riding it. Max was riding it. A lot of guys were riding that. And they were getting a lot of traction there on the high groove. That was pretty cool. And here we have another couple of pictures. Kenny Longren, he was an old Speedway rider. And I raced Kenny when he was young. He's really a nice guy. And he took this picture. And he's just a good photographer. I mean, that guy does a good job. He kind of looked like John Denver, because Kenny is from San Diego, California. And when I used to race in San Diego at Otay Mesa, back when I had that King of the Hill championship winner, Kenny was a local rider there, and he was a few years older than me. And Kenny wasn't the best rider, but he was a good rider, safe rider, clean rider, and he was just a good guy. Kenny Longren, he looked like John Denver, the late John Denver. I used to always go up to Kenny and say, "Hey, Kenny, you look like John Denver." And he'd say, "Oh, Brian, stop it." But he was a handsome guy. He's still a handsome guy. And John Denver is one of the good singers. I think he died in a plane crash, but Kenny Longren is still taking pictures. And thank you so much. His pictures are good, too. I mean, Kenny Longren, he takes cool pictures. There's his name in the bottom right corner. Yeah, and there is a race with Blake Borello on the outside, Max. It looked like the Dylan, the Pickle, and lane number 2, and number 46, the two-time United States Speedway champion, Aaron Fox, on the pole. I mean, these guys are all good. And Blake Borello, I think, didn't have the best night of his Speedway career, but I think his gearing was wrong or something, because he just didn't seem to have the gearing properly or something. But I think Chris Kerr was in his corner, too, that night. And I read a story that Chris Kerr was supposed to be there racing. And then on the program, there's no Chris Kerr. So what happened to Chris Kerr? We don't know. I think he just went there, and I think he said he was going to pit for Blake Borello. So we're not quite sure what happened. But it was a really nice event. I think Steve Evans is going to be running that particular event one time every month. So we're going to have Paris and then Bakersfield rotating. And then I just reading today in SpeedwayBikes.com that Kelly Inman, he's actually looking at a track at Elsinore. So the Elsinore Speedway, they may be bringing Speedway back to Lake Elsinore. There's a lot of guys that live out in that area, so it'd be a nice track. We used to have a practice track at the Lake Elsinore Speedway. They used to run flat track, and it was fun. I don't know if that's where they're doing the Speedway or not, but it's a nice place. Elsinore is kind of a good place, and maybe that's a sign that Kelly Inman is getting frustrated with the industry, and he's looking for a new venue. And then Brad Oxley's healing from that horrible accident, and And we'd love to have Brad Oxley on the show and talk about his ordeal and thank everybody. It would be really great because, the Speedway community really admires and really respects Brad Oxley because he's like the heartbeat of Costa Mesa Speedway. And Brad has really, he's done so much for Speedway, and he's a great guy. I raced with Brad when we were like young riders, and Brad he was always a great rider, and, he's a good competitor, and, he's fixing that track. Probably the best groomer of tracks in Speedway today is who? Brad Oxley. He's good, and Brad can really prepare a track. And so he got seriously injured in Mexico on a motorcycle trip. He was riding, and I guess a deer came in front of him, and he hit the deer. And just last week, I was riding my street bike, and I was riding in kind of like a rural area. There was nobody around, and I was just putting around. I wasn't really going fast. And then there was a hill right next to me, and then there was like just suddenly out of nowhere, there was these big cows. They come running in front of me, but thank God I wasn't really speeding. I was just kind of cruising slow, kind of just like taking it easy, and I wasn't, in danger. But I saw those cows come in front of me, and I was like, it was close too, and I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, these cows were big, and I was thinking, if you were just going really fast, and then those cows came right in front of you, and then you hit the cows. I mean, cows are big, right? And Brad hit some kind of deer or something, and that's big. So when you hit a big animal, it's really bad. And I was on the street, and thank goodness I was just putting really slow. And, I didn't really hit the animal, but it was close, too close for comfort. I don't crash very often. I like to ride this, the street bike a lot. And luckily for me, I haven't had any really big crashes, and knock on wood. I don't like that. I've actually had to use a lot of my Speedway experience to avoid crashes and to save my life. And so I can thank Speedway for my life also, because the skills I learned on a Speedway bike has helped me survive these dangerous streets. So the Speedway riders can take this skills that they've learned on the track and use it their whole life if they ride motorcycles later. And I have learned my lessons, and I have actually, the things I've learned at riding a Speedway bike has actually saved my life, probably about 9 of my lives. So it's really good, learning these things and applying them. Of course, when you have a street situation, it happens really fast. So you just have instincts, you're not really planning anything. But yeah, they had a really great night at the Speedway, and it was just really good. And Steve Evans put together one heck of a show. And we want to definitely give a shout out to Steve. Special thanks for Steve, all that hard work. They were actually painting those crash walls. Plywood costs a lot of money. And I'm not sure if they were using 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, or 1 inch. It looked like 1 inch plywood, and it's really expensive, to buy the plywood and then to paint it. And I think Brad Sauer was there painting. Steve Evans, I'm sure, wasn't doing the painting, but there's a lot of coordination that needs to be done to make a Speedway track. And it was only 49 days that Steve, from first meeting the people involved in the Speedway, the hierarchy, to actually having his first race event, which was February 20th of last week, and only like 49 days from just seeing the venue and having the first Speedway race. So that's pretty unbelievable that Steve Evans was actually able to pull that off. I mean, that's unbelievable. I think Steve Evans is getting better every year, with his promotions. And I was talking to Dave Joyner of Fast Fridays just this past week. He was on the show, and Dave Joyner said he saw Steve Evans at the Bakersfield, and he was actually talking to Steve Evans regarding some tips and pointers how to get Fast Fridays going. And so, yeah, I mean, they had a practice Saturday at Fast Fridays, and Dave Joyner's learning about some things, maybe some tricks from Steve Evans, how he got his promotions going. And then on Sunday they have the practice at the Bakersfield. It's So they have their first practice on Sunday, and then Auburn, or in Fast Fridays, they have it on Saturday. So a lot of the riders are staying up north. They're riding at the local track with practice. And then Sunday, Steve Evans is having a Speedway open practice at the Bakersfield Speedway. So it should be really good. And then we have Paris Speedway coming up here in a few weeks. So Paris is running, and then Kelly Inman wants to get Lake Elsinore going. We really wish Kelly all the best. I'd like to talk with Kelly Inman. I'm not friends with Kelly on Facebook, but if anyone wants to give a shout out to Kelly and have him come on the show, we would like to hear what's happening at Lake Elsinore, because I'm not sure anything's happening at the Grand, but we would like to find out exactly what's happening at Lake Elsinore, his new track. So that should be really great. And so we had, like I say, a really great night of Speedway last Saturday night, February 20th at the Speedway track at the Bakersfield. I don't have a video of the main event, which I'm sad to say, but it was a really good event. And we had the last man out. And, that last man out was a tribute to the 1976 Bakersfield Bandits. They were a really good team, and they had the brochure here for their Speedway promotion. It returned to the Speedway track. And Steve Evans just went ahead and had a really great night at the opening night of the Bakersfield Speedway. It was good. So it was great. And like I say, they went ahead and had a tribute night to that Bakersfield Bandit night. In my last show, I went ahead and showed the race. And, well, what the heck? Let's go ahead and let's see if we can show that race again. Let's find that race here. And we're going to see if this is the last Bandit out. And like I said, in 1976, they had a tribute to the Bakersfield Bandits. And they were the champions of the National Speedway League in 1976. And it looks like Steve Evans is can continue that team racing. Of course, he's from England, and he's a big lover of the Wolverhampton Wolves. And he wants to continue that Speedway team racing, which is really fantastic. Because I was involved in the Speedway team racing a few years back at Victorville, and we won a championship for the Los Angeles Aces. And it was really a great event for all the Speedway riders to learn how to ride team. I remember when I won my first, it was a Best Pairs Support Championship with Russell Green. Russell was ahead of me, and I was blocking for Russell. I was blocking these guys. It was fun. I was able to get next to these guys and try to block them. Russell was gone like a rabbit, and we won that Best Pairs Championship in 2008 with Russell the Rocket Green. And it was fun. Doing the team racing is really a good time. And Steve Evans is actually bringing that Speedway team racing back to Southern California. And like I say, we had the 76 Speedway League, which actually ended up only 1 year, because I think a lot of the people, they wanted to see all the riders, the all-stars, and then when you had the team racing for the handicap that night, you had a limited racers. You had just the people that were in that particular event were in the handicap racing. So a lot of the racers were not at that particular event. Like, let's just say if you had Bakersfield and Ventura racing, well, you're not going to see Rick Woods, and you're not going to see, Jan Ballard. You're not going to see, Bruce Penhall. You're not going to see Mike Bast. You're not going to see Dennis Sagalos. You're not going to see Jim Fishbeck. So when they had the team racing, you would only see the particular riders that were racing that night in the team. So that was kind of the situation, how that happened. And a lot of the fans, they wanted to see all the riders all the time. So that was kind of the downfall, because I think the Southern California Speedway fans were spoiled. They liked their Speedway team, and they liked to see, the guy, all the guys. They didn't want to just see the team, because maybe they had a team that they didn't really like the other team. So when they raced, let's just say a neighboring team, they didn't like, maybe they didn't like Jim Fishbeck, or they didn't like, these guys, Suddy Nutter or whatever. So they didn't want to go to the races because they weren't really into the visiting team. So that was kind of like the downfall behind the Speedway team racing. I have the video. I don't know if I'll show it again. I showed it on my last video, but it's really interesting. I looked up for the team racing in 1976, and there's nowhere on the internet you can find this except for right here. And that's really cool. It's a big part of Speedway history. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to promote the Speedway riders when we have our Speedway show with the riders. And I like to actually do history of the Speedway. And some of the Speedway riders, like I won't mention names, but some of the young riders, they don't really care so much about the Speedway history. And when I was 17 years old, I probably didn't care either. So I'm not blaming anyone really. But the Speedway history is really a big part of the Speedway. I mean, you want to know your history, right? You want to know your past so you know where your future is going. And there's such a rich history in Speedway, in American Speedway, and there's not a lot written on the internet and on YouTube and stuff. So that's one of the reasons why I do these shows, because I want to share that history. I want to preserve that history because it's really important. And the 1976 Speedway League was really cool, and it lasted only 1 year, but it was really great. And people need to see these things because Steve Evans is trying to preserve a little Speedway history doing the team racing, and then the Bakersfield Bandits. He's going to have a team from Bakersfield, a team from Paris, and another team from somewhere else. I don't know, but Steve needs to bring back the Los Angeles Aces. I used to always ride for the Aces, to be honest with you, and it was really cool. And we have one of my friends here, and he has a YouTube channel, and he said, shout out to my friend, and he's a good guy. He's from a place called Ebahai, and he has his own YouTube channel. He's really cool. And then another one here said, do you like the mongoose or the snake? Let's see. I like the funny car racing. Let's see, the mongoose. I like the snake personally. The mongoose actually used to eat the snake, but I like snakes, in one of my last blogs, I was in Bohol, and I was manhandling a 22 feet snake, and then 450 pounds, I had it over my shoulder, big head. The head was like this big, and it was like, yeah, I got my snake today. So I think I like the snake, but actually in the real life, the mongoose always eats the snake. The mongoose always eats the snake. So I don't know. I like the snake, but the snake always gets eaten. So yeah. And my friend likes I think he likes the mongoose. And my friend there likes the mongoose, but I like the snake, it's good. And it's Sunday really today. I think it's Sunday. Everyone coming into the week. So they have the Speedway races practice on Sunday at the Bakersfield Speedway, and Saturday they had them over at Fast Fridays. And Dave Joyner really wants to get that Speedway track going. We had Dave, like I say, on the show a couple days ago, and Dave is just biting at the chomping at the bite or whatever they call it. He wants that Speedway to go at Fast Fridays, and he's really working hard for you Northern California riders to get Speedway, because I know Dave Joyner is just fast and furious trying to get that Speedway track going up there and get that race going. And we're going to go to the beach pretty soon too. So that's going to be fun. It's a really beautiful day out, and where I'm at, it's like 10 o'clock in the morning. It's time to go to the beach and ride the motorcycle. But they have some really good, they have some really good races going on, and it looks like Fast Fridays is going to go on over there at New York. Jason Bonsignor. Do you know how to say Jason Bonsignor? Jason Bonsignor. He's a good guy. And he's got the Speedway going over at New York. He's got this full schedule happening. So everyone's starting to get this schedule going, a Speedway. Jason's got it. Fast Fridays, they're going to start May 27th or May 28th in Auburn. And then you have Paris Speedway, Bakersfield Speedway. They're running once or twice a month, I think. over at Paris and Bakersfield. Maybe Steve Evans will run twice a month at Paris. I'm not sure. But there's all kinds of stuff going on, and Speedway is coming back. So we want you guys to like hang in there. And then Dylan Romo just signed with a British League team, the Plymouth Gladiators. So lots of things are happening. The British League, I think, is starting. The Polish League is starting. Lots of things going on in Speedway. So don't you fret, you guys, because it's going to happen. I mean, Speedway's coming back strong, and it will be bigger and better than ever. Just mark my words. Speedway is coming back. Hopefully we get Brad Oxley back on the track. Hopefully we get Costa Mesa open. And I want to ride Costa Mesa. That's my favorite track. I have a lot of these little trophies here from Costa Mesa Speedway, and I love that little hard groove, blue groove track. I was a blue groove rider, and Costa Mesa has that blue groove track. So we wish Brad Oxley all the best in his healing. We'd love to talk with Brad Oxley, find out what's going on, and also his healing process. I know it takes time. He had operations, and he wants to thank everyone for all the money that they donated to the GoFundMe page, and it was really great. So Brad Oxley really got a lot of help from you, and we want to thank you. You know, Speedway really is good, and everyone's kind of like a family, you know, like maybe there's somebody that doesn't like me, but we're all kind of family, like, you know, brothers and sisters, you know, they fight a little bit or they don't like each other a little bit, but in the end, they kind of, you know, we're all connected somehow. We care for each other. So everyone was able to give back to Brad Oxley, and that's really great. And we really wish Brad all the best and happy healing, you know, because hitting a deer at, you know, 100 miles an hour is no fun. And, you know, if anyone can survive a horrible injury, it's Brad Oxley, because Brad is sincerely a champion. He's a two-time United States Speedway champion, and he's a champion in his heart. You know, Brad is just a good guy. He's a tough guy. He's a good motorcycle rider. You know, I mean, people, they think Brad Oxley is some old guy, but he can go ahead and tear any young guy apart on a Speedway bike pretty much now. Maybe not right now because he's healing, but Brad Oxley is a talented rider, and he's a talented guy. He makes the best Speedway tracks ever. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to end this show, but we want to thank Steve Evans also for the great promotions he's doing. He's giving us a chance to ride Speedway. You know, the young riders need the seat time. They really do. They need the seat time. They need to, like, you know, have that practice. You know, we have more riders going to Europe, and some of these promoters like Dave Joyner, they don't want the riders to leave. Why? Because they want them at their tracks. You know, who wants Dylan Romo to leave? The promoters. But the leaving is a good thing too, because they develop, and when they come back, they're really fast. So, you know, some guys have made their glory leaving and racing in Europe. Back in '72, you had Scott Autry, the first American Speedway rider. He left. There was no Americans. There was nobody racing in Europe. And Scott Autry was the pioneer of the first American to go to Europe and race. And then many followed. You know, he had the glory days of Penhall, Segalos, Bobby Schwartz, you know, the Moran brothers. He had all these great riders following. But Scott Autry was the leader of that, and he went there, and he didn't care. I mean, Scott Autry is hardcore. And now, you know, there's lots of riders, some riders racing in Europe, so they can kind of connect and stuff. But back in the early days, you know, Scott Autry was alone, and that must have been really tough to be there and be all alone in Europe. But he didn't care. He was there to race Speedway. Who cares? Who cares about people? We're here to race. So the Speedway's coming back bigger and better than ever. And we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us in the Hive today. We're going to have a good 2021 season. We're going to ask Brad, hopefully soon, like, get Costa Mesa going. Fast Fridays is scheduled to race. Kelly Inman's going to Lake Elsinore and looking at 2 Speedway tracks there. One's a smaller track and one's a bigger track, I think within the same track. Maybe he's giving up on the industry. We don't know. I've got to talk to him about that. And then, like I say, Steve Evans has been on fire in 2020 and 2021. He's got the Bakersfield, and he's got the Paris Speedway going on. So hang in there, everybody. we're gonna have Speedway this year. Mark my word, we're gonna do it. We're gonna fight, and we're gonna have those Speedway tracks coming back. So don't get discouraged, and hopefully we can get some practice tracks going. We get some seat time. The guys want to race, really. They don't want to practice. They want to go out and they want to compete. That's really one of the only ways to get better is to actually compete against each other, to race. And that's really a lot of fun, too. So thank you so much for joining the show today. It is the Bakersfield Speedway Show. And we have Kayla in the hive. Hey, Kayla, how you doing? She's the super fan. She's actually really great. And Kayla is like helping getting a lot of guests on the show. And she's always like contacting people, even guests that have been on the show. She's contacting them again like, hey, do you want to be on the show? So Kayla is great. And we really appreciate her so much. And thank you so much, Kayla, for everything you do. You're a super fan. If anyone's a super fan, it's Kayla. And she's really great. And she makes signs for the riders. And she loves all the riders, you know. And I told that story before when Davy Shaw, the son of Lightning, Larry Shaw, he visited me one time. And I told Davy, I said, Kayla really always likes me and stuff. She always says, I love you. And then Davy says, oh, she loves all the riders. And I said, I'm not special, you know, like I'm not the only one. And he said, every Speedway rider Kayla loves. Kayla, you love all of the riders. That is so awesome. She's cool, Kayla Weaver, and she is the super fan. If anyone is a super fan, it's Kayla. And she's helping a lot, and she's really a good sport. She's a great ambassador, and she sponsors some Speedway riders. And she just really does all of that she can to promote the sport of Speedway. So that's really great. And we really appreciate Kayla Weaver for everything she does. And she helps us a lot. So thank you so much for watching the Bakersfield opening night. It was really great Speedway. And it was just good. They had 22 Division I riders. They actually started off, and then they had 16. And then they had the final 4 in the main, which Max Romo beat out Brock Nichols in that main event. It was the night of Max Romo. He was the dominator. Max Romo, he dominated the opening night at the Bakersfield. And then also he won the last bandit standing. So he did a sweep. He won the main event and the last bandit standing. So that was really good. And it was the opening night for everybody at the Bakersfield Speedway. And the riders were really good. You know, like there wasn't a lot of crashes except the one that we saw from Reese. And, you know, it was a good event. You know, the riders are riding clean, and we like to encourage all the riders to be safe, to race hard, but not be stupid and do dumb things like crashing people, because that's really a bad thing to do, and it's a way to hurt people. So we really appreciate the riders. They're riding clean, they're riding smart, and they're riding safe. So that's really good. Except for Reese Todd. He did make his mark on the wall. Yeah, Reese had a little bit of accident that night. He actually crashed, and he made Steve Evans buy a new sheet of plywood there. It looks like it's a 1-inch plywood. So Reese Todd, you are the man. He baptized the Bakersfield Speedway wall with that crash. So we appreciate Reese. He's a great guy. And, you know, we wish him all the best and all the riders. So they're doing really great. And if you want to see that crash again, we can show you that. I think this is the crash. Let's see. Here it is. The crash of Reese Todd baptizing the wall. He's riding really good. He was like a D3 rider last year, and then he went to D2. And then now he's stepping up to D1. I mean, this guy is good. You know, he's really bumping up his game. We like to see this, and this is why we're promoting Reese, because he's really, you know, he's picking up the game. You know, he's not staying in D3 or D2. He's actually moving up with the big boys. And here's Reese. I mean, he was riding with his brother Renton side by side. Reese Todd is really a talented young rider, and he's up and coming. So, you know, he's good, but he had that crash. I told him, Reese, you better learn and not do that one again. I think Reese went off the line. He went in off the speedway line, and he went out into the dirt. Somehow he hit some really big rut or something. So that's if I'm riding, I'm going to stay on the groove. I'm not going to get out to the. He was trying to get traction, so Eddie Castro does it, so everybody can do it. It's easy, but it's not so easy. It's not that easy going there and riding, especially if you hit some kind of big, rut or something. And Bakersfield is going to be racing once a month, so we're going to have another Bakersfield race this next month. So it should be really good. And the racing in Bakersfield, like I say, it was really good. It was really good. It was an exciting night of racing. The riders were safe, and we really like that. People get hurt, and it's really a bummer because there's not a lot of money in Speedway right now, so there's no sense of hurting each other and getting crazy. So we appreciate all the riders riding safe. It's very important to do that. So, because everyone has families, jobs, etc., and they need to go do that. But we want to race. So race clean, race hard, and race smart. That's the best way to race. And so, yeah, we like to congratulate all the riders. They really did good. We had a really great night of racing at the Bakersfield. Thank you, Steve Evans, for that. And, it was just really good. And hopefully we're going to get the party started, and we're going to have Speedway at all the tracks. I mean, we're pushing for that. We're tired of this situation. We want to race Speedway. And you know what? We're going to do that. I mean, I have no doubt. So anyways, thank you so much for watching the live stream show. We had a little glitch in the computer the last show, so we did 2 parts. I apologize about that. I had no idea. Sometimes the internet or something goes boo, and it did that. So we apologize and accept our apologies for that. We have no control. The wonderful world of the internet. You never know what the heck's going to happen. It's just fantastic. And we talked a little bit about the 1976 Speedway team racing. It was the National Speedway League. It was really cool. And the Bakersfield Bandits were the champions. So that was really cool. I have a video I played in the first segment. Maybe I won't bore you with the video of the second one. But the Bakersfield Bandits had a really good team. Like I was mentioning in the first video, that they actually they won the championship, and they didn't lose anything at any races at the Bakersfield. Why? Because Digger Helm was the promoter, and he went ahead and he prepared the track really hard. I raced that track, and it was a hard blue groove track. I mean, the Bakersfield track was just rock hard. I mean, it's like riding on asphalt, pretty much. Maybe he put a few little bit of dirt on top, and then right below it was just like concrete. And so he went ahead and prepared his Bakersfield Bandits to race that track with 19-inch Carlisles and low air, and they did really well. And, a lot of those riders were pole riders. That's what you need on a hard blue groove track like Bakersfield was. It was not the Bakersfield that we had last week on February 20th. It was another event, I think it was a fairgrounds. And there's a lot of people that went to Speedway. It was full, and I won a couple. I got lucky. I got lucky and won a couple main events, handicap main events at the Bakersfield Speedway back in the day. And it was a fast track. It was a fun track. You ride hard, you ride fast. Lots of people. I think I had an ugly trophy girl, so it was kind of like, do I have to kiss this girl? Like, oh. So now you don't have to kiss the trophy girls. So that's really great. And so that's a reason why you want to ride Speedway now, is you don't have to kiss the trophy girls. So it was fun. And they had an undefeated team in Bakersfield, and they were the winner of the National Speedway League, the Bakersfield Bandits. So it's really neat that Steve Evans is bringing back the bibs, the original bibs, like of the Bakersfield. They didn't have bibs back in the day. They had uniforms. And they were like purple with stripes on them. They were a little bit on the ugly side, to be honest with you. I didn't like the Bakers. I don't like purple uniforms. I rode a purple uniform once, and I didn't really like it that much, but it was free, so what the heck. But anyways, it was Torco Oil. They sponsored me, and they had a purple uniform. But it was really nice. It was a brand new pair of base leather, so that wasn't too bad. But The Bakersfield Bandits was purple with a stripe on it. And but I like Steve Evans' bibs a lot better than the Bakersfield old team. We don't want to remember the purple stripes anyways, but it was good. And the team racing was good. The riders were good, and they were the first place champions. I didn't like that team, to be honest with you. I liked the Los Angeles Sprockets because I liked Mike Bass, Bruce Penhall, Gene Woods. Those guys were kind of like my favorite riders. But my teacher was on the Bakersfield Bandits, dangerous Doug Farrell. He was the captain. They had a team of just solid riders. I mean, they had the reason why they won is because they cheated and they had like their track always prepared. The riders always knew how to ride it. And then I talked to Gene Woods, for example, when he was on the show, and Gene said sometimes he would go there with the wrong setup, like the 22-inch tire or something. And you don't ride a 22-inch tire at Bakersfield, the old Bakersfield. You ride the Carlisle 19-inch tire, and that's the way you ride. But some of these guys, they like to ride, what they like to ride, right? You can't tell a guy like, hey, you're going to Bakersfield, put the 19 on. So the guys like but they didn't work. That's the thing. It didn't work, and they lost. And the Bakersfield Bandits were told, you must ride these 19-inch Carlisles. And the whole team was like ditto, and they won every match. So that's the reason why, in part, they were good riders too. You had Steve Nutter, you had Sexy Jeff Sexton, Dangerous Doug Farrell, Toomey, you had Bert Hawkins. I mean, you had Bumper Brian Short. Do you remember Bumper Brian Short? And he's still around. I think he's in Lake Havasu or something. I talked to his wife, I think it was, and Bumper Brian Short. Do you remember that guy? He was a good little rider. And so they had a good team, good solid team with all these guys. And the Bakersfield Bandits was the champions at that time. So it's really neat that they're going to, have this team racing. So I think Steve Evans is going to continue that team racing with the Bakersfield Bandits, and that's coming up real soon. So we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us in the Hive. Thank you very much. And thanks for hanging with us. We had this glitch on this last show. So we have 2-part series, and we did a recap of exactly what happened with the support racing, the D3, the 250s, the 150s, and all the riders. So we really, we had a good night of racing, and it was just good. It was just a good night of racing. And so we want to thank you so much for hanging out with us in the Hive. It was really fun, and just enjoyed the show so much. And it was the Bakersfield Bandit night. It was really cool, and it was just a good night of racing. And so thank you so much for joining us and hanging out with us in the Hive. We're going to hopefully have some good guests. We're working on a few good guests for next week, and we're going to go ahead and hit the beach right now. I'm going to get in I got my bathing suit on right now, and I'm going to get in my beach stuff, and we're going to go. It's summertime, and it's beautiful. We're going to hit some coconuts too. So drink some coconut, not hit. We're going to drink some coconut, and we're going to have a good time. So thank you so much for joining us, and stay on 2 wheels. Be safe. Always be careful. And we're going to see you next race. Thank you so much. Have a good night, good day, good night, whatever.